with you a presentation that I've made, and really the objective is to show how Paymaya is helping to build an end-to-end digital economy in the Philippines, and specifically how we've done so during COVID-19. My name is Paolo Azzola. I'm the Chief Operating Officer and Managing Director of Paymaya. Now, first of all, who are we and what do we do? We are the largest fintech company in the Philippines when it comes to amount of capital raised. Our shareholders include PLDT, of course, one of the largest conglomerates in the Philippines, KKR, the US private equity fund, Tencent, which is of course, the tech company out of China, and then IFC, the investment arm of the World Bank. And we love to call ourselves the only end-to-end financial ecosystem in the Philippines, and there's a good reason for that. Now, we cover every segment that is within the financial system or ecosystem in the Philippines, including the enterprise segment, the consumer segment, and the agent segment. I'll go through each of these and give you a little bit of a flavor of what kind of an ecosystem we've tried to build in the Philippines over the last 5 or 6 years. Now, as you can see, we're very much focused not just on the consumer side of the equation, but also on the enterprise side of the equation. So for us, enterprises of all sizes are our customers. And that is, of course, large enterprises, MSMEs, but also government. We help governments, for example, with the acceptance of payments, as well as with the disbursement of payments. On the consumer side, all three segments or sub-segments of the consumer financial services landscape in the Philippines are our target market. So 109 million Filipinos are our potential customers, from the banked customer base to the underbanked customer base to the fully unbanked base. When it comes to numbers, the enterprise segment in the Philippines is around 1.2 million enterprises of all sizes, and consumers, again, are 109 million. The banked base is actually very small, at probably lower than 5%. The underbanked, those who have a bank account, but obviously less banked than the fully banked segment, are around 20 to 25% of the population. And the remaining 70+% of the population is fully unbanked in the Philippines. 29 million plus customers are registered customers of Paymaya in the Philippines, and that's about a quarter of the population of the country. And when it comes to enterprises, we are the #1 processor for online payments in the Philippines by a very large margin. We have, on the wallet side, the largest network of digital payments touchpoints with 200,000 across the country. And we are the widest available network of remittance agents at 38,000 across the entire nation. Now, for us, what's important is our mission. What are we trying to achieve in the Philippines? Well, we're trying to drive cashless adoption or accelerate cashless adoption, but making sure that no one is left behind. And that's why we focus very much, not just on the banked and underbanked segment, but also very much on the unbanked segment. Now, on the consumer side, the objective really is to provide every Filipino with a financial account. And this is something that in a lot of developed markets isn't really an issue. A lot of people have bank accounts, and even in some of the largest emerging markets in the world, like India, for example, the vast majority of people are fully banked or have a bank account in any case. In the Philippines, that's not actually true. And therefore, our objective is to put a financial account in the hands of every Filipino. Now, what kind of use cases or what are they getting out of our financial account? They're getting, first of all, the ability to send money across the country, the ability to purchase something online or face-to-face, and of course, the ability to pay bills and get other forms of financial services like loans and insurance. Now, Filipinos tend to really like apps like ours or platforms like ours, and that's because, of course, obviously our ratings on Google Play Store and iOS Store really validate that. We have some of the highest ratings, not just in the local market, but also globally. On the enterprise side, we, as I mentioned earlier, cater for enterprises of all sizes, and of course, both online as well as face-to-face or offline. Now, in the online large enterprise segment, the kind of product that we brought to the market is something that was very unavailable before we came to market about 5 years ago. So it's not just providing a payment gateway, it's also providing the entire stack of payment processing services and acquiring services, as they're called, similar to what a Stripe does in the United States or an Adyen does in Europe. And we do that for not just our own wallet, which our consumers use, but also across all payment methods, from a Visa, MasterCard, which we are a licensed direct acquirer of, to American Express, of course, JCB, the Chinese wallets of Alipay and WeChat Pay, as well as alternative payment methods that are very, very prominent locally, like Paymaya and the other wallets. Now, in the offline segment, in the large offline segment, we brought the first Android terminal device to the market in the Philippines, and we did so in about 2 or 3 years ago. And that really allowed merchants that were previously not accepting non-cash transactions, or were only accepting cash, to really dive into card and QR payments in a way that they weren't doing before. And that's true of very large merchants like McDonald's and like several other very large merchants. But we also managed to bring a better experience and a much faster experience to merchants who were already previously acquired. Now, during the pandemic, of course, these kind of services, like our payment gateway, like our Paymaya One devices, absolutely took off as merchants out there started to look for other ways of accepting cash from their customers, of accepting transactions from their customers, aside from cash. Now, on the MSME segment, this is even more true. If you're an MSME and you're selling to your customers pre-pandemic, you were very much focused on cash transactions, both in the online space and in the offline space. During the pandemic, of course, that was thrown out of the window, and MSMEs really had to start looking for quick, easy ways to start accepting non-cash methods, whether it's from carded customers or wallet customers. And we did so by building our own app, which is the Paymaya Negosyo app, which enables a small business to get an account to accept transactions, provide all sorts of services like remittances and bills payment within a 5-minute application process, but also with plugins to the likes of Magento and Shopify and several other store builders online. In the face-to-face space, we brought the Paymaya One Lite device, which is a light touch device for card acceptance, as well as Paymaya QR and several other QRs. And we are, in fact, the launch member of QRPH, which is the national standard for interoperability of QR payments in the Philippines, and we're very proud to do so, together with the partnership of the Central Bank of the Philippines. Now, in the offline world, I mentioned earlier that for us, it's very important to provide grassroots services. We want to bridge the gap between those who are unconnected and the connected world. And in the Philippines, I see a split of virtually 50-50 between those who are connected, have a smartphone, are in a data connected area, are comfortable making a transaction on a mobile phone, and those, on the other hand, that are not comfortable to make a transaction on a mobile phone, or are in an unconnected area, or might not have a smartphone yet. And what we do for the latter category is, in order to include them, we have constructed or built a network of 38,000 agents across the country. They cover 92% of the 1,600 municipalities in the Philippines. And what they do is they provide services to their community where people can just walk in and pay their bills, buy airtime load for their mobile phone, make a payment, or even do other types of services like buying digital goods. And that really has connected people who were previously unconnected to the digital world and to the ability to make digital payments. Now, during the last year or so, we've partnered very heavily with the government, both with the national government agencies as well as with the local government units, in providing two types of services. The first one is the ability for government agencies and government units to accept payments from their constituents, whether it's for taxes or for regulatory commission licenses or a host of other services. Or the second bucket really was for the national government and for its local government units to pay people in need of aid, or to give financial aid to people in need. And we did so with the likes of the DSWD, with SSS, and several other entities, as well as with local government units across the entire country. And that obviously during this period was a lifeline to small businesses and individuals alike. And it's something that obviously we're very, very proud of. So to summarize everything, our customers really happen to be the consumers, the enterprises, the governments, but especially the communities. And what we've done on the consumer side is we've really made it so easy for someone to get an account. Previously wasn't allowed to get to engage with the financial community or a financial provider via video. And we managed with the central bank to pilot this 5 years ago and to make it something that today is widely accepted in the Philippines, video KYC. We've managed to create the largest cash in and cash out network of touch points at 200,000, and obviously to provide accounts to around 29 million Filipinos. Now on the enterprise side, we've provided, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to get a business in a box service that in 5 minutes allows you to get payment acceptance as well as disbursement services. On the government side, our relationship with some of the government agencies has been one of really making sure that we ease the process of doing business as well as the process of providing aid and funds directly to citizens. And in the communities, our community agents and stores that are branded with the Paymaya logo really provide those last mile services for the communities where previously only cash was king. So it has been fantastic to speak to you guys and to teach you a little bit more about what Paymaya does. And I'm very excited about 2021 and the prospects for the fintech industry in the Philippines. Thank you.